Welcome to the Soul Craft Your Life podcast. My name is Carmen Marshall, and I'm a life design and manifestation expert, a 7-figure entrepreneur, wellness educator, and a dance teacher. And I'm passionate about helping you create a magical and fulfilling life. Whether you want to discover your purpose, learn how to attract financial abundance, or create more health, balance, joy, and connection in your life, the Soul Craft Your Life podcast has got you covered. 1 part strategy and 1 part soul. Each week we explore both the practical and the spiritual with intriguing experts and fascinating human beings, all sharing their wisdom to help expand what we think is possible for our own lives. The goal? To help you create a life you love on your own terms that stems from your soul. Let's dive in and discover what this life has to offer each of us. Hello, gorgeous souls. Welcome to episode 22, What to Do When Your Manifestation Doesn't Happen, or the thing that you've really been wanting doesn't happen, and maybe it was even super, super close, but it still doesn't happen. I've gone through this recently. This has probably been one of the years where I've had so many learnings, amazing learnings. And in the next few podcasts, I want to share a lot of the things with you. A lot of you may know, and I haven't done a podcast on this yet, but I will actually do one on how to consciously uncouple. But Peter and I separated a few months ago. And so I was really looking for what I wanted to do in the next chapter of my life. So I got really busy manifesting, got really clear on what I wanted. And over about 2 months, I was negotiating a contract with an amazing position overseas. So it was in Lombok, which is an island off of Bali, which I really wanted to live, because I love Bali, as you know, but Bali has become quite polluted and very expensive and just not as sourcing as it used to be. But Lombok, an island off the coast of Bali, is kind of an up and coming place, but without the pollution and absolutely gorgeous. So in this whole process, when I was looking to really create something new, there was a company that I had gone to actually look at buying a villa at or with in 2015, but it was too remote at the time. But I got the ping that I should actually approach them again. And back in the day, I'd also talked to them about working with them with their wellness programs. So I contacted them and let them know that I was re-interested, and also that I wanted to know if they had any positions available. And they said, funnily enough, we are actually looking for someone to take over our whole wellness brand. And of course, perfect manifestation. So it ended up being what seemed to be the perfect consulting position. So it wasn't a job, it was actually a consulting position, which was fantastic because, of course, I haven't worked for anyone in 25 years. And it was everything that I wanted. I basically designed the position that I wanted. So I was to be completely over their whole wellness brand. And they're a luxury villa in Lombok, villa company, but also very, very eco-friendly. So they, in combination, make this amazing luxury experience for people to come live. So they might be investors buying villas, and then to also rent those villas out to people as tourists that want to stay for, 2 weeks, a month, whatever it is. But what they were missing is the wellness programming. So that's, of course, what my love, not just the dance, but the yoga, the breath work, the nutrition, the whole 9 yards. So basically I created this position, and over 2 months, we were negotiating the contract. And it was arduous. So it was kind of this catch-22, because it was like, oh my goodness, this is the perfect position, everything I've wanted, to live in Indonesia, be in charge of the whole wellness programming. But on the other side, it was taking so long to actually get the contract done, which is also going to be, I'm going to do another podcast on red flags and tests that are really important for your own growth, for you in order to be your fully expressed version of yourself. But I'll do that in another podcast. So long story short, after 2 months of intense negotiating, I got the verbal agreement that everything that we had agreed on was going to be in the contract. So then I went and told everyone. And you may or may not know this about me, but I don't like to tell people I'm doing something until it's a done deal. So once it was a done deal, quote unquote, I then went and announced on Instagram, I announced through email, everything. And then guess what? The next day, I got the contract, the actual physical contract, and they had put back in something I had negotiated out. So then I spent another 10 days trying to get it back out, and they weren't moving. And this combined with one other thing, which was a real contention point for me as well. The one thing that they had put back in the contract, which I negotiated out, and then also that they wouldn't commit to building the studio that I needed in time for me to promote retreats. So that was also like another, it was probably the two things that I was like, okay, this can't go forward. And what's interesting is in this whole process, I was also asking the universe, because it's a big thing to move everything to another country. And especially because I've been living in Australia and I've been en route for my business visa in order to get permanent residency. It's an arduous task as well, but by leaving Australia, I would be saying no to that. And there's a bunch of things. I would be leaving my amazing dance community that I've created here that I just adore. I'd have to let go of my cats. It's just like a really big decision. So I was also asking the universe, if I'm not meant to do this, please give me a sign. And there were little signs along the way, but I'm going to talk about this, how sometimes when there's signs along the way, you may ignore them because it's something you so badly want, which is what, in this case, it seemed like the dream position. So when I asked the universe, okay, if I'm not supposed to take this, they gave me two really big things. And I think it was like, Carmen, because along the way, a lot of my friends were saying, Carmen, are you sure about this? It just seems a little bit, because there were some tests along the way. So long story short, when this happened, I had to then say, no, I can't actually take this position. Of course, I was gutted because it was something I obviously really wanted. But at the same time, once I got over that disappointment and knowing that if these two things weren't in place, I definitely couldn't take the position. Then looking back, of course, I can say this was the perfect thing. And the universe, and this is what this whole podcast is about, is redirection is protection. So when you're thinking about manifesting the thing that you want, and you've done everything that you know, and obviously I'm a manifester and I so believe in manifestation, but at the very end, it didn't come through. And that redirection is protection. And now that, of course, you're going to go through the probably disappointment, which I did. At the same time, I was also, because in this time period, I was going back and forth, like, should I take it? Should I stay? Once I made the decision, I was also actually relieved because I got to keep my cats. I didn't have to leave my dance community. I didn't have to give up the Australia permanent residency, which I'm still in the process of deciding if I want to do. But at least I wasn't closing that door. But it's also really important to grieve something as well. Even if you know something isn't the right thing for you, there's going to be a grieving process, even if it's a relationship, if it's a position, whatever it is, and you want to allow yourself a chance to grieve that as well. Which, of course, I was going to feel sad after this amazing position didn't go through. But again, redirection is protection. And the universe knows better than us. And it was such an interesting 2 months. And I'm going to do a separate podcast on this. There were so many little tests along the way that really helped me step into my own truth and also really have my own boundaries. I'm going to talk about that because that is so important when you're up-leveling or you're manifesting in your life. The universe will give you tests because in order to live this next level, you have to actually up-level yourself. And so even I can look back and say, okay, redirection is protection, but also I learned so much in these 2 months that actually helped me grow. But I'm going to do that in a separate podcast. So let's just talk about, first of all, when your manifestation doesn't happen. So the number one takeaway from this podcast is that redirection is protection. It's the way that the universe protects you. And especially if you've been pulling out everything you know about manifestation and things are going really well, but at the end, it just doesn't work out. And the universe always has our back. We can't always see it in the moment, but we can always see it in retrospect. And 3 things that are really important to know, because when you're in the middle of manifesting something, and especially if you really want it, you may be ignoring the red flags that come up along the way. I saw some of the red flags, but I kept stepping over them because I was like, no, this is really my vision. But finally, the universe was just like, okay, Carmen, this is not the position for you. So there's 3 huge reasons why the universe redirects us in order to protect us. Number 1, we might not have been listening to the red flags along the way. And I definitely had red flags along the way. There were so many actually when I look back now. But of course, when we really want something, we can step over those red flags. And that's whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, whatever it is. So obviously, it's good if we can notice those red flags early on. But when something doesn't work out, we can also say, oh yeah, that's the universe just protecting me because I wasn't actually paying attention to the red flags. Number 2, it's not aligned with your authentic code. And this is so important because your authentic code, which is something I work with in all of my courses now, that is really like your deepest values at the core of who you are. And it's what you want to center your whole life around because that is your essence. It's your life force. It's what you're here. It's what you're all about. And when we really know those 3 to 4 values, it makes life so much easier, especially when we know those values and we really own them without apology. So one of my strongest values is freedom. So I have 4. The number 1 actually is freedom. And I remember when I was going through this process, it was very clear from the beginning that I was just going to be a consultant. So I wasn't going to be an employee. So in my mind, I had kind of checked that box like, okay, yes, that's fine. I would never work for somebody again because I really love having my own business, but being a consultant is fine. But yet there was a few times through the whole process, I was like, oh, am I going to feel like an employee? And I'll talk about this in another podcast with some of the tests that came up. And it was a concern in my mind. Am I actually going to really like, because it's working for this company, because it's starting to feel like more of an employee than a consultant role. But yet that red flag, I still didn't pay enough attention to. So I think this is where the universe, well, not I think, I know this is where the universe is like, Carmen, this is one of your strongest values. So again, redirection is protection because it really would have rubbed up against my strongest value, which is freedom. And if I had have uprooted my whole life, gone over there, and then 2 months later realized this, it would have been not so good at all. And then number 3, there is something bigger and better that you are meant to be doing. And this is so huge. And stay tuned because there is something that I have been skirting around for 25 years and it's come full circle. I know this is the universe saying, Carmen, this is time to step into this thing that you have been wanting to do 100% since 25 years ago. And this is now the time. So again, redirection is protection. So think of in your life, is there something that just isn't working or something that just fell through and you're really disappointed about? Go through these things and think to yourself, this most likely is the universe protecting me. And maybe I wasn't, or I still am ignoring the red flags. Maybe it's not aligned with my authentic code, and therefore it's always going to rub up incorrectly, and it's going to cause more stress and anxiety down the line. And the number 3 is there's something bigger and better that my soul is calling me to do. What is that thing that maybe I can't stop thinking about that's always been a thread in my life that I just haven't stepped into? Maybe because of fear, maybe because of what other people will think. But that is what you're here to do. That thing that is really your destiny, that is really your essence, that you're meant to step fully into. And the universe, its whole entire goal is to help you live your most fully expressed life with your authentic self and really connected to your core values, your authentic code, and do that thing that you were born to do, that you came here to do. So I hope that is helpful for you. I'm going to keep sharing a lot of the things that I've been going through because in this transition time in my life, obviously separating from Peter, really thinking about what I want my next 50 years to look like. And I think for many of us, it's always so good to reevaluate. Am I really connected to my authentic code? Am I really on track to what I'm here to do? Am I really feeling fully expressed and my full authentic self? Whether or not you're at 50 years old, 40 years old, 30 years old, 20 years old, 70 years old, it's always really good to revisit because that is what is going to create happiness and fulfillment for us. It's not the material things, although I love material things, but it really is, are we living our purpose and are we helping other people in their lives as well? Let me know if you find these shorties helpful. Shoot me a message on Instagram, through email. I always love to hear. And if you have more questions, let me know as well. And I will see you on the next podcast. And remember, you have a purpose here that you were born to do. And the more that we can uncover who you authentically are and what you are here to do, the more happiness, fulfillment, meaning, and joy your life will bring. Thank you so much for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, I'd absolutely love if you left a review on iTunes. It really helps me to get the podcast out there to support more people just like you to create soulful lives. And as a thank you, I'd love to send you my 20 personal affirmations for manifesting an aligned, magical, and fulfilling life. To access this freebie, simply send a screenshot of your review to soulcraft at carmenmarshall.com, and I'll send you my favorite affirmations and mantras straight to your inbox. All my love, and I'll see you on the next episode.